Well, all right. It was just like that, dude. Only last week it was last week, and now we're back. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to This Pink Cloud. I am Kelly Reverb. I identify as a DJ and an RSPS. We are a show about recovery and everything that goes with that. Multiple pathways, talk shop, talk resources. Anything that might help you or a family member with mental health, all that good stuff. To my left today, if you want to get that wide shot, just so you can get your camera time there, Fitzy, sitting in on the ones and sixes is what I like to say. From Hello Studios, Mr. Fitz Estee Lauder. It's actually Fitz Lauder. So
if it was Estee, I wouldn't be rolling this podcast with you.
Well, thanks
offering
for
you some cosmetics.
Thanks for sitting in. I appreciate it. If they want to do a podcast themselves, they can do it at IamHelloStudios.com.
Exactly, nailed it.
There
So
we go.
yeah, we are the Airbnb of podcasts.
All right.
Yep, we help
Beautiful.
you get started.
Yeah, exactly. But help me actually look somewhat professional, I guess.
We're trying to go professional all the way.
Trying all the way
Yeah, it's
professional.
part of the process.
All
We'll
right.
get you all the way.
Well, cool. And then one of my favorite people in recovery, I met this guy, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm sober, because I met a dude like this. He is with Brazos Recovery, and then he also has Cardinal House Sober Living. I like to call him the People's Champ. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Josh Jordan.
Hey,
How you
Josh.
been, dude?
I'm good.
I mean,
Things
it's
are
been
good.
forever, dude.
Yeah,
You've been a
it's been
busy
while.
guy, dude.
Well, yeah, I'm a dad now, and
Yeah, that happened, right?
Yeah.
Congrats.
yeah, he'll be a year old in next month. So
How long has it been since you? Oh, you were on the show back. Oh, you did the
Dylan.
you
Dylan
did
was
no, but
with
you
us.
did the. You actually did the one for the Crystal City documentary.
Yep.
That was
You're
the
right.
last time you were on, dude.
Yep. You're right.
And then the wheels fell off, and mom passed away, and all that kind of. We had to take a hiatus. But
Kelly's mom, not mine.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, mom.
Yeah, right. All right, and this guy sitting in front of me, weird thing, like we met actually going to Skate Straight meetings, and then all of a sudden, after one of the and Skate Straight, for those of y'all don't know, it was a CBT meeting, which is cognitive behavioral therapy meeting, but skateboard based. Which I mean, who doesn't dig that? At a skate park. We were meeting there, and then we got to talking afterwards. We started talking randomly about collectibles or something, like Star Wars stuff or something, and then all of a sudden, we land on the topic of baseball cards, and we start, and I'm like, oh, this guy really knows his shit. And then all of a sudden, I come to find out his dad actually owned First Base in Lockwood Mall, which is like famous to me because I'm a baseball card nerd, but met him there, and then we realized that we've been in each other's orbit like since we were like 10, 11, something like that. But here he is coming in after that wordy introduction, Mr. Clark Ford. How are you today,
I'm
buddy?
doing well. I'm doing really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you on. I mean, usually what we do is kind of talk about people's story, like their personal story, and share, what's happened for them, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, that kind of thing. But I'm probably going to interject and throw some baseball card nerd stuff
Yeah,
in.
bring it on.
So, but if you want to go ahead and start off and kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll take it from there. We'll jump in.
Yeah, cool. grew up here in Dallas in Lake Highlands.
Shout out, love Lake
Shout
Islands.
out Lake Highlands.
Yeah.
And you know, I grew up. So many people's story starts this way. I grew up in a typical home, little bit Leave It to Beaverish. It was kind of, well, it was just normal, or at least what I knew normal to be. And as a kid, of course, surrounded by baseball cards in my dad's store, which was a good thing. It kept me busy.
Right. Well, that's one thing here. Go ahead and pull up that picture we have, because there is that picture of
Such a trip.
I know. It's a picture of me and his dad it was an 11-year-old me and his dad at first base, and it was like in the Dallas Morning News or something, the weekend guide. But I just so happened to have that picture. The funny thing is, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I was so excited to have you on, is what the hell was it like, dude? Your dad, to baseball card nerds like me, owned the candy store, dude.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was fun hanging out. It was cool to take friends along that were also collectors, and just to be. It's its own culture, right? And to be around, and it was fun never having to pay for baseball cards. And
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, I mean, hey, Dad, can I borrow your 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie?
Well, if he knew how much I really took, it probably wouldn't be that cute of a story. But
See, I was gonna say that, dude. How many cards were on the take?
let's just say I had a large collection.
I'm gonna borrow this from Dad, but
But back then it was nothing. It was 35 cents a pack.
Oh,
and
yeah.
But you just went into the rack and grabbed as wide as your fingers would go and set
Oh,
them
yeah.
on the counter, and that was the only thing to collect was complete sets. There were no subsets. There were no
Right.
chase cards. You just built as many complete sets as you possibly
Sure.
could.
Yeah.
And saved them in hopes to put your kids through college.
right,
Which
yeah.
I think a lot of people may have been disappointed with that outcome.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, we could go deep on that, but I want to kind of stay on your story. But I was just so jealous as a kid. I was like, that guy's dick, man. His dad owns the store. But I mean, I was really man, that would be so cool, dude.
It was fun.
Yeah,
It was a lot
so.
of fun being around athletes that he'd bring in for signings.
Oh yeah,
and
you were saying that. Like he would bring in Brooks Robinson.
Brooks Robinson, Stan Musial, Enos Slaughter. He was a big Cardinals fan. So
Yeah.
it still is. So
Oh,
he,
yeah,
he
Lou
would
Brock,
bring in,
yeah.
Lou Brock.
Right.
Enos Slaughter was a big one.
Yeah. And that's just crazy because you would go out to eat with these guys, right?
Yeah. We'd have breakfast before the show started, and one time he had Kevin Brown from the Rangers when he was just getting started, who went on to at one time sign the most lucrative baseball deal in history as a pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
So that was
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
to kind of have him when he was just getting started. And,
just hanging
yeah,
out.
It was
good
cool. It
dude.
was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Well, so baseball cards kind of happening at that point, and then I'm sure they're kind of happening because your dad has the store till when?
Gosh, that's a good question. I want to say it was when I was in college just after college that he decided to shut
Right.
it down.
Okay.
Over there on Adelia Boulevard.
Yeah, I remember because I actually went to that
That was
location.
the third and final location.
Gotcha.
I want to
Okay.
say it was around 91, 92,
Okay.
maybe a little later than that.
Right.
So, but that's 20 years in business. Over 20 years
Right.
in business.
So you're in the baseball card industry, and then basically you're borrowing cards from your dad, and then where does the fun / non-fun stuff start happening?
Yeah. So it all starts out as fun, right? And
Of
then
course.
and then it becomes non-fun, and then it becomes detrimental.
Right.
But yeah, for me, like so many addicts and alcoholics, you start out younger as never really feeling like you fit in, and I at home I enjoyed playing alone. That's just how I felt comfortable. A lot of playing in my room, a lot of role playing, and
You got to be careful with that wording.
Well,
a lot of playing with myself. I mean, by myself.
All right, maybe role playing isn't the word, but you know what I mean.
Right, I got it.
But yeah, and I remember all the way back to 5 years old or whatever the age is that you start kindergarten, walking in that room, and the teacher had a big circle around where you put your bag away, you sat on the circle, and I remember vividly to this day when that circle got full, I just looked around and it was like, wow, I am not supposed to be here. This is not
Right.
These are not my people. I don't do people. I do alone time.
Right.
And it was, for me, looking back, it was more so than just first day of school jitters. So that was an uncomfortable situation.
Would you say it was like a social anxiety then?
It could have
or-
been.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it could have been. I never enjoyed play dates. I never enjoyed birthday parties.
Right.
Wouldn't say I couldn't figure out a way to enjoy them, but I was
Right.
always
N-
real nervous.
Now you fully enjoy circles.
Yeah.
with the 12-step action.
Yeah, for sure.
With the rooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have this anxiety, and you know, I can relate with anxiety as well, because that's just like an awful feeling, because you want to be comfortable.
Right.
And you're not.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, it moved into my first experience with, changing the way that I feel was with cigarettes. We had a lot of heavy drinkers and heavy smokers. Not my parents directly. They were the ones that kind of wanted to break that chain in our family. Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of uncles, big family that we'd get together for holidays and go out and visit over the summer, and a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking. And I remember at a very young age, maybe 6 or 7 years old, just thinking, why do they do that? Why do they smoke those cigarettes? Why do they drink that alcohol? And so I got curious and, would sneak cigarettes out of my aunt's little cigarette holder.
Sweet dude, was she smoking like the Moors?
Oh,
like
Pall
the,
Malls.
The Moor 120s,
The
like
Pall Malls.
Benson and Hedges Deluxe Ultralight Menthol 120.
That took a cigarette case this long. Yeah, well, my uncle would buy Camel filters and tear the filter
There you
off
go, dude.
because they were stronger than non-filters.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. Your uncle was OG, dude.
That's right, hardcore smoker.
Like it.
But I would take the cigarettes and I could light them up in the house, because that was when you smoked everywhere.
Dude.
I mean, in high school we
I know.
smoked
On
cigarettes
do you
at
remember?
Taco
Well, you're
Bell.
as old as me, so you remember smoking on an airplane. Like they
Vaguely.
actually had the
smoking
They had
section.
the built-in ashtrays in the airplane. Can you imagine being in a tube where you could potentially die
And some of
because
the-
they have oxygen in there being pumped in,
Right.
And it just business class Larry's over there just smoking, chain smoking, dude.
Right.
That was awful.
Some of the planes still have the ashtrays and they're all gnarly.
Oh,
They've
yeah,
got all
yeah,
the
yeah,
ash
yeah.
still, the
And-
old ash still
and
stuck in
gum.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that first experience with a cigarette for me was, I got that buzz, and I knew that it was a good thing, and it felt different. And I think a lot of kids they try tobacco or cigarettes for the first time. They get that buzz. It makes them kind of feel a little funky. They throw up, and they never do it again. That was not the case with me. So I continued experimenting with those cigarettes and changing the way that I feel. Until at 11, I was introduced to weed and alcohol. And that was when, that first sip of whiskey was just, like so many alcoholics describe it, it was just like, okay. My shoulders dropped. I could
Yeah.
breathe. I had confidence. And I didn't realize how much emotional stress and pain I was carrying. I can look back and didn't realize that at the time, but I can look back as an adult, having more education about addiction and alcoholism, just feeling relief,
Yeah.
And so from there, that went on until probably 16 or 17.
You got to hone in and figure out where your comfort zone is, dude.
Yeah,
Dial in your substance use.
Yeah,
so
well,
to
and
speak.
I think I had a really I never threw up. I don't know if that
Wow.
was because I had such a natural tolerance, if that's a thing, or I was able to control it a little bit. But that went on till I was probably about 16 when I discovered that you could get away with things if you hide them. So when 16, 17, when you start to, experiment with alcohol, going to the parties in junior high, going to the parties in high school, I learned that if it came to drugs, if everybody needed one, I needed three. If everybody was drinking a 6-pack, I was drinking a 12-pack. Not like as a I got to be the cool guy drinker thing, but
Right.
it just never stopped. And it probably would have gone on to the wee hours of the night had I not had a 12 o'clock curfew to get home.
Sure.
And hiding it was something that hiding who I was and what I did was something that I learned at a very young age.
Now, were you hiding it from your parents, or are you
Certainly
hiding
my
it from
parents.
friends, or are you?
I don't feel like I was hiding it from friends
Right.
at the time. There may be, I'll go back a little bit. There maybe was a, hey, look at me, I killed a 6-pack last night,
Right.
a 12-pack last night.
Dude, you're rad.
Dude, you're so cool. But definitely hiding it from the parents, and I became it served me much better in life when I became a master at hiding.
Oh, yeah.
My drinking.
Yeah. Right, dude. No, I mean, I get it because like 18 or 16, 17, whatever, I got the Playmate cooler stashed on the side of the house. With whatever
Yeah.
with whatever spoils are left over. Can you imagine like a 40-ounce sitting there for 2 weeks, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Or a bottle of Mad Dog
There-
2020.
Yeah,
That
there
was
you
my
go.
first drunk was Mad Dog. My first real drunk was
Yeah.
Mad Dog 2020, the grape flavor.
Oh, delicious.
The
My
good
delicious.
stuff.
Smirnoff grape was my first
Yeah,
drink until I couldn't drink anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And with
not a
the
bad way to
cigarette
go.
thing,
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is hilarious. You were talking about hiding it. That's not my experience. I get caught doing everything.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So the first cigarette was got a pack from a cousin or something and was hiding it in the house. It was just eating me alive. Then I knew it was up in the room. And anyways, one night I was probably upset about absolutely nothing because I was an angsty teenager. And I had the brilliant idea, this isn't a house where you smoke inside, and I'm just going to light this cigarette, but I'll open the window. The screen's there and everything, but the window blow the smoke out, right?
Sure.
The wind blows the smoke in, and as soon as I light this thing, I hear my mom rustling around in her room, and I start trying to cram the ashes out through the screen, and like I'm rubbing the cigarette on it.
You didn't just think about putting it in the toilet, dude?
I thought of nothing. I thought of absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I love
Man,
that,
I
man.
got caught immediately.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's
back
funny.
to
though.
Clark. I was just
Yeah,
like,
I was shifty like you, dude. I was a little squirrely, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
I found out how to hide it and was very good at it, dude. Like that ninja.
Yeah, well, I always destroyed all the evidence by consuming it.
Well, there you go, dude. But then you
So-
got to hide the bottle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes out the window onto the street
you
in,
go,
in front of
Rob.
Lake Highlands High School.
Right. So you're doing this, and you're basically you have I guess a higher tolerance is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I built a higher tolerance pretty
Right.
quick. And on into high school, alcohol was the big thing. There was a little bit of weed for me, a little bit of Coke, but it was mostly just, the typical weekend parties where everybody just brought as much beer as you possibly could and just drank until you had to go home.
Toga.
Yeah, right? Right.
Josh has no idea what we're talking about.
Are you a youngster, Josh?
He is,
yeah,
dude.
you said 92. I was born in 92 while you were in college.
Sweet. Yeah, that feels good.
Right,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I know, dude. It's painful, but whatever, Hey,
Hey, it's
hey,
all good.
hey. At least we made it, dude.
That's right.
You know?
I'm alive.
We
That's what you get for hiding it. Dude. You made
right.
it this far.
So yeah, so you're
So now I'm in high school.
Yeah.
I graduate high school. I go to a very conservative, small Christian college in Colorado, where if you wanted to party, you had to go to Denver University or CU Boulder on campus, and of course you had to know somebody on that campus
right.
to get up there and have a place to party. And that's when, towards the end of my college days and on into after college, is when my drinking really started to escalate. I got my first DUI at 21, going to the clubs down in Deep Ellum and just drinking like a fish every
Right.
night. When it was a weekend thing for most people, it was a weekly thing for me. And then of course I got exposed to drugs, to cocaine, to
Yeah.
acid, ecstasy.
Right.
Ecstasy was a big part of my life.
Right.
And that went on for quite a while. I came back after college and worked for my dad at the shop. A lot of heavy drinking, beer every day of the week, liquor on the weekends.
Are you like having a cold one like while you're at the store?
No, but I did smoke pot while I was at the store.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go. Perfect.
Which our customers didn't really seem to mind.
Yeah.
Seems kind of on brand. I don't know.
Yeah. right.
Right. Didn't really seem to. I remember one time I had just smoked a bowl in the bathroom, and of course had the fan on and the Lysol spraying it around, and this cat asked to use the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
and yeah, it didn't go well.
That's crazy. So this is going on, and the whole time, I guess, like as far as your family goes and the people that matter to you, that are close to you, they have no idea
Well,
that Clarky's got a problem.
Yeah, my closest friends did.
Yeah?
But my family, no way.
Yeah.
I mean, they suspected it, but they probably thought I just drank like a typical 20-something-year-old.
Right. Even after your first DUI, or
Yeah, there was probably some concern
right.
over that just
Right.
because of the alcoholism that ran through my family.
Ah, gotcha.
So,
What about for you? In the midst of that, did you
no,
stop
there
and
was no
think, like,
concern.
okay.
of
no.
course,
Just
dude.
checking.
Yeah.
No, consequences meant nothing to me.
Right,
They just were a speed bump. And I had a family that would bail me out.
Well, yeah. Your
which
dad. I
is-
mean, your dad was a man of means or financial means, and
Yeah, he did
could
all
just-
right.
Yeah, could take care. By the way, what did your dad do? Because he was like, didn't he have a master's in something? Or
No,
or
well,
was
he
that-
graduated from Midwestern State where he met my mom,
Uh-huh.
and then the official term for it is an actuary. He wrote a computer program for insurance companies, and he sold the program to Standard Insurance here in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Actually, who's been around for a long time.
Right.
And he was the only one that knew how to operate it. So he
Oh, dude,
created his
so
own
secure.
marketplace.
I love that.
Yeah, and he's 80 years old now, and every
Yeah.
once in a while they'll call him and be like, Gervis,
right.
we're in a jam.
Help us out. So yeah, I just knew your dad had something to do, and I knew that his only income wasn't baseball cards.
Yeah, the baseball card thing was a side business.
Yeah, it
for
was
sure.
just
it
his
was
hobby,
his
yeah.
passion.
Yeah, his
Yeah,
hobby,
for
yeah,
sure.
right.
For sure.
But so that's going on, and
Yeah, then I get into the business world. I was bored at the card shop one day, created a resume, faxed. Yes, faxed, Josh. Do you
I
know
like
what that is?
that.
What is that?
Are you familiar with that?
a facsimile.
Yeah,
Right.
faxed it off to all the trading card companies, not knowing that Pinnacle Brands was right down the street in,
Oh, yeah.
in Grand Prairie.
Sure.
So I went to work for Pinnacle, and then ended up in New York, where once I got comfortable in the position and was able to go, yeah, I can get away with only working 4 or 5 hours a day.
Right.
Yeah, I was able to. I loved going out to Jones Beach on Long Island,
Right.
and just pounding beers.
Right.
I remember one time I was going through the tollway to get back into Manhattan, and I had a Corona in the center console. And at the time, you remember when those New York NYPD T-shirts were real popular
Oh,
that
yeah.
people would wear? I had
Yeah.
that on and a beer in the center console, and the cop behind the toll booth was like, "What precinct do you work for? You can't drink on the job." I'm like, No, I got this shirt at the airport, and
I'm off duty, man.
it's so busy in the tollway that
Right.
he's like, "Just get out of here."
that dates him really when he said I talked to the toll guy.
Yeah, the toll booth.
That was actually a toll booth was a thing. It wasn't automated. It was like you'd take your change, and if you don't have a change, you would give the guy your dollar.
That's right.
and
there was
he
no
would-
Apple Pay. at the
Yeah.
toll
In
booth.
Oklahoma, they still had those until a few years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But my drinking continued to progress. There was no drug use at this time.
Okay.
I would lose a job, right, and I'd end up in a different state with another trading card company. I'd bounce around a lot because I was never satisfied, and then ended up getting, you look at my resume, it's 20 years old, and there's not a job on there for more than 3 years
Right.
because I just could not stay focused, committed. I thought for a while there that I'll drink a couple of beers. It helps me concentrate. I'll work a little harder.
Right.
more clear that way.
Oh, sure,
And I
of course.
really was more clear that way. That's where I felt comfortable, was with a buzz.
Well, I'm going to turn into your therapist here, but like, I mean, I kind of see a some congruency as far as, your job turnover, but then also, your recidivism as far as relapsing and stuff like that. I don't want to jump ahead, but I mean, there's been some of that, so I kind of see maybe a similar pattern. Like,
Yeah, no, there's no doubt I'm a chronic relapser.
Right.
I never knew I had a problem through all these years, though. I never considered myself an alcoholic. I had to go to AA meetings after my first DUI, and I just thought that was a place where alcoholics go to not drink for an hour. I didn't know that it was a recovery program. So
Sure.
I thought you were this way or you weren't. You either had alcoholism or you didn't. And it wasn't until really I was about 40, in my early 40s, before I realized, this is a problem. But I continued on through my career, ended up the last company that I worked for in probably 2013-ish. I was drinking every day. I was having to pop a few beers in the car on the way to work.
Oh, yeah.
Just to level off and feel
you
normal.
you get that roadie.
Yeah,
Get that
and
little
I
pregame.
That's right. And
Yeah.
I would sit in my office watching the clock, just waiting for it to become 10 o'clock so I could go buy a pint of vodka.
Oh,
because
wow.
that got me through the workday.
Why didn't you just bring your own, dude?
Well, if I bought in quantity, that would mean I'm an alcoholic.
Oh, so you had to justify it to yourself.
That's right.
then.
That's
Okay,
right. I'm
I
just
got
going to
it.
drink. Hey, it's like they say, one day at a time, right? I'm just going to drink this much today. But I got in a really bad way and met a girl who became a really good friend of mine, Rachel.
Okay.
She's now my wife. But when we first met, she was going through some stuff in her life. I was going through the alcoholism in my life, and I had come to a place where I was okay telling select people that I was an alcoholic, but it wasn't until I got to a point. She brought a bottle of wine over one night. I was living in Deep Ellum. She brought a bottle of wine over one night. Hey, you want a glass of wine? And I just went, no, I'm an alcoholic, and I meant it in a different way. And she was really the first person that I said it to and meant it like, wow, I need to change something here. But I didn't know what to change.
Right.
I had pretty much just accepted the fact. I got to a point where I had just accepted the fact that I was an alcoholic, to the point where I would make a drink in the kitchen. I literally held it up and went, if I drink this, something bad is going to happen. And I'd throw it back. I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And
Did something bad happen? Usually.
Well, this is by this time I had been pulled over for drunk driving 5 times and charged with 3 DUIs.
Well, holy crap, dude. We missed a bunch of DUIs in there.
Yeah,
dude. So
yeah.
That gets scary. Well, I mean, first off, 1, is enough.
Not for
or
me.
0 is enough, actually. But the thing is once you get to 5, you're talking real jail time.
Well, again, I was charged with 3. I was I have a tattoo on my chest here that says "lucky" because they were in different states, and this was before. Well, this was just right about the time they were doing all the interstate stuff.
Gotcha.
Where you popped on every state if you popped for anything.
Right.
And so, through the power of really good attorneys, I was able to get out of not get out of that. I did do 30 days
Hey,
once.
real
in
quick,
Collin
let
County.
me awkwardly throw to our new sponsor.
Yeah, sure. Do it.
By the way, hey guys, if you're out there looking for a personal injury attorney, please hit my boy Max Paderewski up. He is with Lone Star Law Attorneys. He's a fan of the show. He supports what we're doing. He supports sobriety, and he supports mental health help or whatever. Yeah, hit him up. If you actually go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to his website. And just tell
Nice.
him, so just tell him I sent you. And, he's a good dude, no gatekeepers, and he will actually get back to you. So if you're looking for that, personal injury law attorney, he specializes in Texas and California. And he's going to be on the show in a little while. We're going to have him on and kind of tell his story. But anyway, back to your story. 2 good attorneys.
Yeah, to good attorneys. So again, in the same way that I was bailed out by my family, I was essentially the consequences were pretty tolerable, right? So I think it just reiterated in my mind that things don't really get that bad when you get popped for something. Things don't really get that bad when you overdo it. But again, I was in a really bad way at this point in 2013, and it was Christmas time, and my ex-wife had called me. My daughter Madison had gotten.
What year are we talking here?
This was
2013.
This was Christmas of 2013.
Okay. All right.
And my ex-wife had called me and said, "Hey, can you come over to help put together a kitchen play set that Madison got for Christmas?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course, I'd love to." And I proceeded to pound a pint of vodka on the way over there, then stop and pick up a bottle of wine so I'd have something to drink while I do this, because you can't do an activity without alcohol.
Well,
right?
and wine looks presentable too.
Well, wine is sophisticated.
Well, yeah,
right?
wine is acceptable. Yes.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, you can't be an alcoholic if all you drink is wine.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, of course.
What a joke. Who
Yeah,
came
right.
up with that line?
Yeah.
And so I was scheduled to go on a huge business trip the next day, Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas.
Okay.
The biggest electronics show in the world, really, with a brand new employer. And it was 6:00 the night before I was supposed to leave, and I hadn't even begun the process of getting ready for it because I was binge drinking.
Sure.
And so I went. I've never been a fainter. I've never been a panic attack guy, but I went into a full-blown panic attack. I was drunk as hell, and my ex-wife called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital. They couldn't give me anything to calm me down because my blood alcohol was 0.28. And I remember, what I do remember was sitting there in the hospital, and a woman who I can only describe as an angel came over to me, and she said, "Do you want help with this?" And I just went, "Yes." And that was it. That was the monkey off my back for alcohol.
Yeah, that moment that you really got real with your problem and realized that.
Yeah. So I ended up in Timberlawn for a few days, and then I went down to, I can't remember the city it is. You would know, Josh. La Hacienda?
Yeah, Hunt, Texas.
Hunt, Texas.
Laha.
Yeah, Laha.
Right.
Great place.
Well, yeah, if you got money.
I had
Or
insu-
insurance.
I had
They're in
insurance.
they're in
Yeah.
network,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, insurance
But they're kind of
covered it.
high end, right?
It's about $35,000 for a month.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
nothing.
Standard.
That's pretty normal.
Right. Yeah. No.
But I ended up at La Hacienda. I want to say I worked a great program there because I came out charged to never drink again when I got out, but I didn't work a good program.
I think you're so good at fooling and hiding things
Absolutely.
that you are fucking fantastic at even hiding it from yourself, dude.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I pseudo worked the steps myself. I didn't get a temporary sponsor while I was there, but I came out on step 7. And I mean, I did my fifth step with some other cat that was there at treatment. Oh yeah. So it was real sketchy. And I was sober for about 3 months before I started smoking weed again. And
Right.
I told
because
myself,
you could probably just do weed and be cool.
well,
right?
I told myself alcohol was what kicked my ass. Drugs never kicked my ass. Drugs were always recreational. I never had a problem with drugs. And I truly, for a long period of time, thought I was sober as long as I didn't. I can smoke some weed as long as I don't drink. I can do cocaine 4 or 5 times a year, so long as I don't
That's
drink.
the old California sober.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally California sober.
Right.
For sure, which is just a whole nother. We could do a whole show on that.
Right. But so you're going to probably to the 12-step meetings and then saying, "I'm Clark and my sobriety date's this day."
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm
Absolutely.
completely faded
Well, no,
on.
that was
I'm
another
completely
thing.
faded on weed right now.
That was the other thing. I was so charged. I didn't need a 12-step program to continue to recover. I had it. I was completely resting on my own laurels. Just had it under control because I was so pumped about not drinking.
That 7th step must have been really powerful.
Right. Yeah, it really worked. But yeah, I wasn't living the program by any means. And so the drug use got worse. The cocaine got worse. That's my DOC. And now fast forward to, the relationship that I had with my now wife, it got to the point to where she kind of let me do my thing for a little while because it wasn't out of control.
Right.
But it gradually got out of control to the point to where, I would come home with a bag of weed. I'd come home with a half ounce of weed and tell her I only bought a quarter so that I could hide the fact that I could smoke a quarter in a week.
Right.
I didn't get that. Man, you already smoked all that weed?
Yeah.
And
That's why you got the dummy bottle of vodka, and then you got the real bottle going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. You're good at what you do.
Yeah, totally.
You're good at your job.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, it got progressively worse. The lies, the hiding it. I'm an isolator at home when I use cocaine. So it got to a point where it was just completely out of control.
This is the thing that blows my mind about you with cocaine, because I always viewed cocaine as the drinker's companion. They're like best friends. You drink and then you do cocaine so you can drink more. But you're over there.
No, but
I'm not going to drink, and I'm just going to do cocaine by itself or with weed.
Yeah, but you didn't hear me, man.
Oh,
I
let's hear
was
it.
sober because I wasn't drinking alcohol.
No, I know. You
Sarcasm.
Oh, right. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, I was
The
there.
air quotes
to
on
this
the wasn't.
day, even having as much cocaine as I was doing, I would have rather poke needles in my eyes than drink alcohol.
Right.
So it was just the cocaine, which is a whole different experience without the booze. In your
Yeah,
system.
I wouldn't know it, but I always know the tandem.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why I was saying, oh, that's weird. But
Yeah.
anyway.
So yeah, that came to a head. It really affected. Of course, my friends don't know any of this about the length of time. I think my best friend Paul, I had mentioned to him that I was playing around with it a little bit.
Right.
Another buddy of mine that I've been friends with since first grade, I hid it from him, telling him on an occasion, yeah, I've toyed with it a little bit, but it was a pretty regular thing. So it affected my family life at home in a big way, to where it was like, you need to clean yourself up or get out, really.
Yeah. So your wife's giving you an ultimatum?
I wouldn't call it an ultimatum, but yeah, it was an ultimatum.
Yeah. Or I would call it a very strong suggestion.
A strong suggestion. So that's when I decided again, and I had wanted, you can't do this for other people. You
Right.
can't do it to save a marriage. You can't do it to save a job. You have to do it for yourself.
Dude. Yeah, I always say that. The most important thing, do you want it? Because if you don't
Right.
want it, I can't make you want it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, while I was struggling towards the end, before she called me out on it, I was like, man, I just wish I could go to treatment. I had my own business at the time, so I'm thinking, who's gonna do that? I was running my own business, with heavy quotes on that.
Right. Sure.
And I just didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell somebody, because I was in such a bad way. I was helpless. I had reached that point to where I didn't have a choice anymore. And so after she called me out on it, I ended up going down to Austin to Ascension House. Shout out to Sal, Dustin, and Chris for sure on that
Right.
one.
And that was just this last go
That was
around?
this last
Yeah.
go around. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I want to say, I want to shout out to you, because, I mean, just because you're doing all this shady shit to yourself and all that stuff doesn't mean you're not a good dude. Because I remember you being at Skate Straight, and there was a guy there, Jim, and he actually, in that meeting, he said, hey, I have a problem. I've relapsed and blah, blah, blah. You drove him down to Austin that day from Dallas. Like, what kind, I mean, that's a good dude move in my book. And I just wanted, I wanted to applaud you for that, because I was like, well, this guy's, actually gives a shit.
Well, I was healthy at the time.
Yeah.
I had
But
been
I mean, I think that's, very,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like at least a 12-hour commitment, try to get somebody there, get them checked in, and then have to drive back. I mean, that's a good dude move. I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate that. I just felt compelled when he showed up at the meeting give him a hand. I feel like God just really put it on my heart to go see what you can do for this guy. But I was healthy at the time, right? I had 5 months sobriety. I was running an AA meeting under the Skate Straight umbrella, and yeah, we took him down to Ascension House, and he was a meth addict, and so when it came to this last end for me, I was like, well, if it can help Jim. It can
Yeah,
help
right.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you guys know about Ascension House?
We found it. My wife and I started calling around and found a guy named John Schwartz who pointed us in the direction of, I think, Chris Mosier at the time. They were both house manager and house director of Ascension House. And so we found that they take people with little to no income. It's not an expensive program at all.
Okay.
It's not a doctor. There's no doctors on site. I like to call it glorified sober living, where you have you have 4 meetings a day. There's some not strict rules, just stuff you should be doing in recovery. Right. And so when it came to my need for treatment, that was the first place that came to mind. I was like, yes, I'm going to Ascension House.
Right.
This is going to be awesome.
Well, and so like what you're doing this time to maybe afterwards, you have some experience with sobriety and you know yourself, better than anybody else. But it seems like maybe you're taking some steps, like, for example, living at Sober Living, which Josh runs and you're okay with this, but Josh actually is what would you say your title is over at Cardinal House?
Founder, owner?
Founder, owner, okay.
Just a small title.
There we go. Well,
it's not a big deal, it's a couple of houses with some guys getting sober.
Sure.
right, yeah. And well, walk us through what is, Cardinal House, and what is, if somebody wants to, if they can't just get sobriety by living with mom or living on their own, and they need some built-in accountability, why don't you tell them a little bit about, Cardinal House?
Well, I actually wanted to ask first, and it might segue into this. I want to know what happened at Ascension House. Because when you called me, you were ready, and I remember I was walking through a little store looking for my son some clothes he doesn't need, and we're talking to you, and what you were telling me is you were on your 8th step, you had done some work. Right?
I did the work.
What happened for you there? You had this moment. You're like, I got to go somewhere. I got to somebody's got to step in and save me from this situation. What happened when you got there?
I did the work. I dove into the program like the ocean, man. And I buckled down. I knew I didn't want to be living this way anymore. There was total acceptance, which I had never experienced before. Acceptance that I was a drug addict.
Right.
I never wanted to call myself a drug addict.
It's like you had acceptance for alcohol, and then I think I can navigate drugs, and then not so much.
Yeah, they were two very different,
Right.
very different journeys for me.
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing for me, Josh, was I came to a point to where I realized I came to believe that I'm worthy of a great life, and that I'm enough. And I had just enough of a taste of sobriety, which is just the best way to live for me. And I got hungry for more. And
do you think that the seed for that idea of your own worthiness was planted in you by the staff or the community you were there with, or were you going to meetings outside of that?
It was all of it. It was certainly the staff. They're easy to sit down. I took advantage of their mentorship. I took advantage of going into that office in privacy with somebody and talking to them. And I was real vocal. I became an open book. I accepted the fact that I was not just an alcoholic. I was a drug addict. And it was the best decision, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And I had originally signed up for 30 days, and then I was just going to go home.
Yeah.
And I got to day 29, and I was like,
dude, there's still some squirreliness in me.
Nope, not at all. And then I was just going to go, find a buddy to live with after 60 days.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
Need sober living.
Well, so what are you gonna do or hope to do this time, I mean, are there any certain things you're going to tweak in your program, or is it just a vigilance, and trying to keep that vigilance because, it's always there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the tough thing is it seems like maybe you get really enthusiastic and you're all guns blazing. Man, I'm all recovery, and then it kind of just dissipates, and then it's like, well, I can smoke some weed.
Well,
Yeah.
before you answer, like based on the question you asked me, like that speaks to your question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you were talking about like who, if they decide they can't get better while they're staying with mom or wife or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like they want to come, like Clark didn't have to come, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like that's for us, like there's a misunderstanding because of all the different resources that are available that like all sober living is housing and all housing is sober living. Like that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
And so like each of us, I know in this community in Texas, like we're trying to build communities of men or women or whatever based around some ideas and experiences and information that we have. And so in order for people to become a part of that community, there's some criteria we got to meet. And the first and most important is willingness, right?
Right.
Like getting a call, like we've had guys come in who mom and dad said, you can't come back here. Hope you figure it out, and a little less stern than that. But
Right.
then they're sitting with a case manager at a treatment facility and they're like, well, I know these guys and like it's affordable. You'll be able to pay for it yourself once you get a job, blah, blah, blah. And they come to us and their only need in their mind was, I need a place to stay. And it'll help that the people around me are sober.
Right.
Because I'm like Clark leaving Laha, I'm going to stay sober.
Right.
And here's how. Watch me.
Right.
Right.
Vigilance didn't work.
Right.
It does
Well,
not
and-
work for me.
Sure, and I think you need some built-in vigilance because,
The
like,
answer-
yeah.
The
right?
answer to your question that you ask is do the work.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
Like
doing.
I have
That's
to be
always the answer.
changed. The same guy that steps into treatment, depending on the work that's done there for the individual, I'm not saying specific types of work or the deal breaker here, but whatever happens there, it's at least possible that the same person who walked in is going to be the same person who walks out. And until I can continue with that work, my only hope is vigilance. But Clark and I have experience that shows like vigilance is insufficient. Like
Totally.
I can't just remember that I'm not supposed to drink and use drugs because a symptom of the illness I have is a brain that forgets, literally.
Right.
Like, and that's not dramatic wording. It's like a literal thing that happens. Like I will forget that I can't just smoke weed.
Right.
I can't just do cocaine 5 or 6 times a year. And so I know for us, like, to combat that meeting where we get together once a week, and sadly, I don't know what it looks like every week, every night that it happens, but the goal, like the hope is we're setting the bar higher than I'm going to stay sober just one day at a time. Because every time I put my effort and energy towards maintaining abstinence, and that's it, I fail. So if I can put my energy and effort towards developing a relationship with this power that these people in these meetings are talking about, or even more simply, like just trying to be a better person, having integrity, being responsible, showing up to things when I say I will, being considerate of other people, whatever. If I can put my energy towards that, abstinence is a side effect, right?
Yeah.
And so once a week, we all sit down and get together, or they sit down and get together, and the hope and goal is that they're going to hold up a mirror to one another and say, hey, I know that we're waking up and we're sober and we got food in the fridge, and mom and dad and our wife are answering our phone calls, and that stuff's really cool, and like things are going good. But when I stop the bar right there, I'm doomed to fail. So here's what I'm seeing, right? Here's some behavior that I see, and this is how, and we use like when you I feel language, which in the state of Texas is really popular in the treatment community, but
Right.
essentially what can happen, what we hope happens is like, even though I think I'm killing it and I'm sober and I've got all these, boxes checked, now I've got a community of guys that live with me day in and day
Well,
out
yeah.
in my darkest
It's that,
moments.
and I always say that community was paramount for me in my recovery.
Yeah.
But having that built-in community is huge. Well, why don't if somebody wants to actually talk to you about living at Cardinal House, one of the locations,
Yeah.
why don't you give them your contact information real quick?
My cell phone number is 918-998-4223. that's the best way to reach me. Yeah,
Okay.
call or text.
And then can they go to, is it cardinalhouserecovery.com? Or
It is, yeah.
cardinalhouserecovery.com. And you have the pictures of the house and stuff like that up on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's it's great what you're doing, and I'm happy to see that you recognize the problem and that you're actually doing something about it, and you can't trust yourself,
Yep.
and you're taking those extra steps. So I applaud you on your efforts.
Well, dude, how many more minutes we got?
We're almost done, buddy.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about like out of the community we have, Clark's somebody who goes out of his way, certainly to talk to me and hopefully to talk to some other people about there's some promises outlined in some literature that we read through, and it talks about being amazed before we're halfway through the process of making amends, right? And my experience was I got a little less than halfway through, and I was amazed, and I said, all right, time to go help people, right? I'm done cleaning up for now, and I'm just going to focus on helping people.
Right.
And so I limited my capacity to experience freedom. And so anyways, I won't dig into the specifics of it, but I just wanted to talk about ask same question that Kelly asked is what are you doing in your recovery now? What does it look like different from last time walking out of Laha? Where I know Laha is a place they armed you with the same information.
Right.
That's a 12-step place, man. People have real and powerful experiences. What's different for you now in practice in your day-to-day?
Well, again, doing the work. Day to day, I wake up. I'm an early riser. I get up about 4:30, 4:45. I do my prayers. I do my meditation. When it gets to be a little bit more around 7, 8 o'clock, I immediately jump into service by texting people, hey, how can I pray for you today? What can I do for you today? And then from there, it's about being vocal about it and not shying away from the fact that my best thinking and my self-will is what landed me into a dangerous place to begin with. So I depend on others to guide me, particularly my sponsor. I'm calling my sponsor every day.
That sounds like a little community.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And the community's great at Cardinal House. It's real chill.
Cool.
The guys are cool. There's no drama.
Right
It's a
on.
good place.
Well, guys, I hate to wrap it up because we could talk forever. But, I appreciate you guys coming out. Hit up my boy Josh Jordan at oldcardinalhouserecovery.com. And then Clark will be waiting for you there. He'll open the door.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Warm
go
welcome.
go back and get Josh's number and just call him up and ask him what he's wearing.
Just make sure it's before 10 because we do have a curfew.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys coming out. Don't forget to subscribe, all that good stuff. It's really easy. If you're watching us on the YouTube, the subscribe button's just right there or right there. Anyways, but, be sure and subscribe and share because, that's how we grow the show and, get out there and help people. So I do appreciate you guys coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Next week, we have Mr. Donovan Blair, who happens to be the bass player for the Toadies.
Nice.
Is that cool?
That's tight,
Nice.
dude.
Are you guys going to come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would love to.
That's tight.
Would love to.
Sweet. All right. Well, hey, and thanks again, Fitz. Hello Studios for being accommodating. Remember, guys, there is no magic pill for sobriety because if there was, we would all take too many.
Drop a bomb down.